till that position we are able to see.
Yeah.
Bodhak. Hi everyone, I'm Nisha Shenoy, the host of the Inside Edge podcast, and today we have a very special guest in our Women's Day edition. We have Commander Madhavi with us. She has served the Indian Navy for 14 years. What an honor to have you, ma'am, on our podcast today.
Thank you so much.
With 14 years of Navy experience and another 14 years of successful corporate stint, she brings in wealth of wisdom from both the defense segment, and interestingly she is also been researching very rigorously for the last 2 years in yoga. She's a wellness advocate and has authored two excellent books in the space of yoga, yoga for runners and yoga for beginners. So we are going to have lots of interesting stuff today on wellness, fitness, mindfulness, and everything that women need right now in the fast-paced lives, modern lives that we all live. Welcome, ma'am, and I'm truly, truly honored to be even speaking to you today.
Thank you so much, Nisha. Honor as well to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation as well.
So, first of all, very excited to understand how did someone from army and then corporate you have come into yoga. And usually people just jump into doing yoga, but you actually wanted to research on yoga. You come from an academic tint of mind. Was that always part of your life? How did research in yoga come up?
My background, I started my career in the armed forces, like you brought out, 14 years. And when you are in armed forces, it's like you very external, right? You want to run the military training itself is like very rigorous and very external. So at that point in time, we don't even think yoga can really help a human or individual, because you just all you're doing is going outdoors, running. And so that's how my career started. And after that, of course, I ventured into corporate, and again another very external life took over. So yoga, I wouldn't say yoga happened in my life. Probably that seed was there. My dad, he was a mechanical engineer. I belong to Hyderabad, and I was born and brought up and raised here. So he used to travel to Mumbai for his work. So he picked up these small little yoga books from those platforms, and those days they used to sell. Now it is not there in near Flora Fountain and all. So I used to bring those books home, and I was probably 10, 11 years old. My brother was maybe 9, 10 years old, and he used to wake us up. 5:30 our day used to start, and he used to read. He was a excellent reader. He would just internalize whatever is there in a book if the book attracts him, whether they are technical publications or whether they are homeopathy books, or whether they are anatomy related books or like yoga books. So he was my first yoga guru, so to say. So till the time I was under the control of parents, we would do yoga every morning. So that's how. And once I left home for my studies, he got posted to North. I stayed back in Hyderabad for my first for the studies and all. So then, like it happens, you are a teenager and you feel that okay, now you are independent. So you tend to carve your own niche, your own way. So that's how then actually yoga left my life. No, actually I left yoga, I can say that. So from there, then I never looked at yoga. My normal life, Navy and corporate life and all that continued. Then it just happened that when I was in my corporate, like one of my own, I used to attend yoga sessions. Just like we all of us go to yoga sessions. Ki, something we have to do, something related to wellness. So I used to do that, and that yoga instructor, she's a good friend of mine. She said, "Yahan pe there is one advanced yoga sessions that I've started. You come, we'll go." I said, "Yeah, advanced yoga, where will I do?" She said, "No, I'm also going. I'll be there with you. You come." So I went and I joined that so-called advanced yoga course. And the instructor, now he became my mentor. I'm still under his guidance, under his mentorship, Rupesh Parekar. And the way he guided me through, he understood, if he gives me yoga like a normal yoga package, I will run away. I won't stick to the session. So he started throwing those advanced asanas at me. Then I realized, oh my God, I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to hold this. That really hit my ego. Then he trained me through this. And 6 months down his classes, he told me there is a competition that is happening. Why don't you go and attend that competition in science, a district level competition? I said, yeah, I've just started learning. He said, no, you just go and see. You see what kind of asanas those women do. You know what is the competition like? What is the kind of yoga postures people, the human body is capable of doing? So I went, and in my category, I won a silver medal. To my own surprise, I said, "Oh, is it? If you win something, then that interest
Yeah.
naturally
Yeah.
comes about, right?"
Mm.
So that's how. Then one thing after another, I went and I won a silver in state, and then gold in nationals, and I went on to
Wow.
so. This journey took over a period of 2 years. I went to a lot of yoga competitions. I won an international gold, international silver. So when that was happening, because when you go to competition, you practice a lot. You know, it is not like your regular 1 hour practice. You actually practice because you have to hold the posture, you have to have control over breath. So when you connect that breath to your body, your mind, and your movement, actually your nervous system, the entire physiology, your system undergoes a change. It is not about losing weight, it is not about looking sharp, it is nothing external, but internally that transformation happens. That's how our body and our mind, our system are designed. So that transformation was happening within me. I could actually sense that change. So when that transformation happened, I wanted to understand why this is happening. Now I know this is happening. What is happening, I knew. Why it is happening, I didn't know. So I wanted to understand. That's when I said I wanted to study yoga in depth. I wanted to understand the science behind it, the logic behind it, that these simple so-called movements, the breath, and why does it change a person so much, transform a person. So that's when I decided to leave my corporate career, and I studied yoga in depth for 2 years. I'm a qualified yoga therapist as well, and I was meaning to go back to my corporate life after these 2 years. But after, at the end of 2 years, you feel, oh, I have found my calling in life. And I said, this is what I want to do with my rest of my life. And this is what I want to take to the world. It is very, very easy, very simple to stay healthy. So I said, this is my mission. And that's how I stuck to it. Yeah.
Amazing. What a journey, ma'am. So, yesterday we had a chance encounter at Nilofer Cafe in
True.
Hyderabad, and it was just a coffee meeting. And today we are talking about yoga. I was so um, enriched with just that hour of talk with you. There was so much to learn from, someone who's, not just served the nation, but also looks at yoga in a whole different light. I think in our modern lives, what has happened is a lot of us want everything done very easy for us. We are living in a world where you have quick commerce, Swiggy's and Zomato serving everything at the tip of our fingers, and groceries at your doorstep. Everything is like delivered at your doorstep. So literally, there is no need and reason for me to step out, and which has also become a reason for us to kind of stay disconnected from
Yeah.
not just from each other but also from our own bodies. So
True.
this conversation was like a bolt of lightning for me yesterday when I was talking to you, in terms of it's not just about fitness, and it's not just about doing a few asanas, but if you can control your entire nervous system through, you can regulate your body mind through something, then it is a conversation that everybody needs to hear about. And from an expert like you, for a Women's Day episode, I couldn't think of somebody else doing this today for us. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us a little more about the books that you have written on yoga. So what does it do for us? What problem is it solving? A little more in detail so that everybody gets to know what is there in the book.
Yeah, most certainly. Like you brought out a very good point. We are in that quick fix generation. We want everything very quickly at lightning speed, and things are available. Why not? So everything has become, at the fingertip,
Click of
on
a
the
button. Yeah.
fingertips. You don't
Yeah.
have to really struggle or strive for something. So the same thing has crept up in our lives and in our to our health as well. Like we want vitamin D, we feel that, oh, we pop a pill and vitamin D is all served on a platter. From pharmaceutical was an industry. Now it has become nutraceutical. Another industry cropped up saying that, okay, you take this, vitamin B12 is taken care of, take this, and vitamin C is taken care of. So that is not how human
Yeah.
body works, and
Yeah.
that is not how we absorb what is required. Of course, I
Absolutely.
have nothing against means they mean to do something really nice to the society, all these Nutra industry. But what is available naturally, even if you go and ask a doctor, natural, even if you eat, say, palak or whatever is available naturally, the body, the absorption of body is about 27 to 30%. That is the kind of nutrition body absorbs. Now, if you take a pill, the absorption is just about 6 to 7%, or at the maximum 10%. You imagine a pill, the absorption is as less, and what happens to the rest is all, it is, where does it go, how does body process, because rest of it is all processed food, right?
Yeah.
Which is not conducive for human body. But when you consume something natural, what is required body takes, and what is not required, that also acts as roughage, that acts also helps you in elimination. So the more natural you stay, better it is for you. So that is where, from I'm just trying to explain it from the dietary perspective, because it will be easier for us to understand and process it mentally. And as far as wellness is concerned, there is no other substitute for the body as well as for the mind than moving a bit,
Movement.
little bit of movement, because we all do not have so much time. We don't have luxury of spending 1 hour 2 hours on the mat, or going out. All of us do not have that luxury and do not have that inclination as well. That's why my first book, it talks about 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, which is about 2% of your time in 24 hours. 30 minutes a day, and I called it to immunity and health. So this, why immunity and health? Because when we had this book, was written soon after COVID. So when we thought of immunity, all of us think of short. We don't think of inherent immunity that exists within us. Basically, it has to be harnessed, it has to be cultivated. Just 30 minutes you spend. Now, because you're spending 30 minutes, you want those 30 minutes to be absolutely curated for you, right? I mean, you don't want to do, you have, say, a stomach issue, then your 30 minutes might as well, address your stomach issue, not address your focus or concentration. So that's why in this book, I curated different 30-minute modules for different professional challenges. So you don't even have to think today what to do. Like for somebody sitting most of the day, software professionals. So you see what you're doing throughout the day and accordingly pick your 30 minutes. So it covers professionals sitting most of the time, standing most of the time, speaking most of the time, like somebody preacher or, teachers. Globe-trotting professionals, today they are here, tomorrow they are abroad, or you're traveling from one town to other town, one country to the other country. Globe-trotting professionals, senior citizens with little restricted mobility, joint health, exam stress for kids, when they are going through this. So I curated different 30-minute modules. So all you have to do is, you have to pick your 2 pages, your 30 minutes, and just go through and just do those movements for that particular day. So that's about it. So I made this very modular, simple to follow, because I keep telling this to everyone, body loves health. Any human body, it loves to bounce back to health. It is it's not what we don't do with the body, that is what takes us back to, ailment. So do these simple things, just modulate, like at the end of the day or beginning of the day, do these 30 minutes, and your body is absolutely good and ready to go to the next. If you miss those 30 minutes every day, you may not do. Throughout the day, simple practices brought to your day. Like if it's a software professional, just get up, stretch a bit. If somebody is speaking most of the day, what they have to do. So again, for each of these professional requirements, if you miss those 30 minutes, what you can do throughout the day, that I listed. And if you miss that as well, end of the day relaxation. So you can combine all three, or you can just take one, or end of the day just relax, and then your body is reset. That's what this book is, very, very practical, ready to, implement. But you have to do, you have to move. That's what this book is about.
And thank you so much for sharing more about the book, ma'am. And from what I understand from the conversation, this book should be mandated in every school, in every college, in every corporate. It sounds like you have given us a handbook for mindful living, for longevity. I hope somebody is listening to this and schools take
I hope so.
required action. Because if
Yeah.
someone like you, who's not just an army veteran but is also a yoga researcher and an expert, has curated what 30 minutes of my day should look like, I think you've solved the problem for most of us.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for doing that. Just to give you a little brief about me as a person, I have chased external success for so long that somewhere body has always been on the back seat for me, right? For
Yeah.
various reasons, body image, not having enough time to take care of the body, or not having an in-depth understanding of, the implications of not taking care of the body for whatever reason, right? A lot of us do not understand that body and mind are closely connected. It is integrated. The action that goes in the body impacts your mind. And
Absolutely.
so instead of trying to simply fix the mind all the time, which a lot of us without understanding are doing
Yeah.
through just therapies or just empty self love chants and affirmations and all those stuff, things will not change on the inside, right? So
Absolutely.
your book is going to actually teach us in a way to understand and listen to the cues of the body and integrate it and make that 30 minutes really valuable for each one of us. So,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for doing this for us. And I'm going to order my copy right after this podcast because I think I am also someone who needs this more than anyone else.
Thank
And
you, Nisha. So
may
one more, I mean, because now that you have brought it out and you have beautifully brought out the essence of the book and the practicality of it. So this has been mandated. I mean, this is all the Sainik schools have taken this book for all their libraries across
wow.
the country, and Navy, Army, and Air Force have taken this for their libraries across. For the sheer practicality and applicability of this book. So I'm really happy if this book serves its purpose.
I
Yeah.
think most schools and colleges also should start looking at books like this, where we start putting physical and mental health and start looking at it as something more integrated than
Great.
looking at it as
Very,
two different
very true.
aspects. Because
Very
what I have understood so far through my life's experience is that fitness cannot just be fitness, it cannot just be physical fitness. It is an
Absolutely.
overall wellness angle is what a lot of us have to start
Absolutely.
understanding. And
Yeah.
there will be days where your body will not listen to you, like in your midlife, a lot of times our bodies are not in our control.
Correct.
So you also mentioned that there will be days where you will have to be a little more compassionate towards your own self and do
Yes.
those little stretches or do whatever you can instead
Correct.
of completely saying I don't want to do it. I am so happy to find someone who's actually advocating for a more mindful and a slower life, because
Yes.
as much as speed is important, direction is equally important. And instead of just taking a 30 minutes walk in the sun, people are just popping up pills, which
True.
is not a great use of our body, our time, and our resources. So thank you,
True.
ma'am, for bringing out very important points for our longevity in the long run. Speed is exciting, but direction is more important, is what I will
Absolutely.
take from this conversation.
If I may add one more thing here, a lot of people come to me saying weight loss. So I tell them, weight loss is a byproduct. You
Correct.
rightly brought out, Ishal, about fitness. You should never look at weight loss as the final
Goal.
aim,
Mhm.
the final goal. That means you're capable of running a marathon or at a particular speed, and you're thinking, okay, 100 meters I run, I'm good enough. Yeah, but 100 meters has to be sprint. If you're running 100 meters, it cannot be at a marathon speed. So weight loss has to be a byproduct, like a sculptor. Once you are tuned to wellness, mind body integration, what is not required by the body automatically gets shed out,
Flushed out. Yeah.
and weight loss happens automatically. It's like that sculptor removing what is not necessary from a rock and making a beautiful sculpture out of it. Weight loss is an outcome when you focus on integrated wellness. That's what it is.
I totally resonate with you. And I have also understood this. Maybe it's a little late in life. I wish I had started this journey, early in my childhood or in my 20s. But, like they say, it's better late than never.
Whenever you start,
Uh,
that is the starting point. So,
yes. I exactly, have come to that conclusion now, because all this time I couldn't sustain a fitness practice because my focus was so much on the weight that was not moving on the weighing scale. So when that becomes your goal, it is
yeah,
so easy to give up,
true.
because I am looking at fitness from a calorie standpoint, or I'm looking at fitness only from a weighing scale standpoint. And when I don't see those results, right, it demotivates
Yeah,
anyone, right? We are
true.
all a product of validation, whether it is
Absolutely.
from the weighing scale or from the mirror or from someone. And then when that doesn't show, it gets to us. But somewhere I think the intrinsic valuation for somebody to get into the wellness space needs to be a little higher than that, where
True.
we start looking at our own health, longevity, our wellness, both physically, mentally. There are so many beautiful aspects to just staying healthy.
Yeah.
And
Very rightly said, Nisha. Very beautiful.
happiness is not something you can pop, through a
Yeah,
pill. You can, and as many trophies and accolades as we may win, there is no guarantee of happiness unless you
correct.
are intrinsically
Yeah,
happy, right?
true.
So
Absolutely.
the amount of good hormones that a fitness practice, a wellness practice can give is
True.
natural. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
substitute to that.
Absolutely. And it is internally governed, no? Then
Yes.
there is, you're not leaving your remote to someone else externally. The control is with you. So
Mm.
it's a very beautiful place to be in.
And thank you for writing that book. Time is also a thing. It's relative. I mean, I can't call it an excuse.
Correct.
It's different for different people depending on the stage and phase they are in. So maybe your book will bridge that gap of whatever it
I
is.
hope so. That's why that is another aspect that I wanted to address, that you don't need to give too much of time, just 30 minutes. Yeah. So
You have
time
made it.
constraint
you
is,
you have left us no excuse but to
yeah.
construct that somewhere. And
Indeed.
thank you for that effort for uh,
Thank you.
picking that mission and running with it and making wellness a part of everybody's life. You have democratized it to that extent that we no longer have to depend on someone or figure out. You have figured it out for us.
That is the aim, and I hope people really follow. Of course, this book has found many homes. I'm really happy at the way people have responded or taken to this book, and I just hope that this really changes and transforms people's lives.
Tell us, where can we find the book
So it
on?
is available on Amazon. It is available at few bookstores in Mumbai. Tidal Waves and few other bookstores keep it. But Amazon, Flipkart, it is definitely available.
Wonderful. I think that's the easiest way most of us
Easiest,
procure
yes.
these days. So whoever's listening to the podcast, I don't see a reason for us not to go and order our copies today. You've made our Women's Day even more richer. Not
Oh,
just
thank
shared
you.
your wisdom here, but you're also giving us a reason to improve the quality of our lives. Thank you for that, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very curious to. I've been waiting to ask this question. Indian Navy. I mean, was that an accident? Was that a thought out decision? How did it happen? Did you always have that bent of mind of serving the nation someday? Or it's not every day that we hear somebody going into a defense career, women
Yeah.
more so. Like, what prompted you to take that? Was there any particular childhood influence, or what exactly is your story? Tell us.
So I think maybe I was a bit of a rebel. I really wanted to do something that nobody has done in
Hmm.
my family, at least. So there is, from my family at least, there is no one in the defense in my first circle or second circle, like first cousins or mama or second,
Hmm. Hmm.
set
Hmm.
of group of relatives. No one in the army ever. When I was passing out of my college, Indian armed forces had open gates for women. So that's when I said, oh, let me give it a try. My parents were surprised. How did you think of applying? I did not even ask them whether I can apply. I just went ahead and applied. When the call came, okay, you are selected for the interview, that's when I told them that, look, I'm going to, there were two places I went to, Dehradun for Air Force and Bangalore for the Navy.
Hmm.
So that's when I told them, and they were, of course, they were very happy. My dad especially, uh, extremely supportive. So that's how I told them. And yeah, right from the childhood, I don't know, yeah, like there's a lot of movie influence. Like we watched a
Hmm.
lot of movies while growing up also. And when I used to watch movies, for some reason I always saw myself, being a girl also, I always saw myself as a hero,
Hmm.
punching people. I never identified myself with heroine,
Hmm.
those pretty clothes and dancing around. For some, nobody told me that I should be that. It was just that, I wanted to be the protector, the hero, and
Hmm.
and then I saw little later, in my life, I saw Kiran Bedi as, first woman
Hmm.
IPS
Hmm.
officer. Said, okay, it is possible. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then when I was in my college, this serial came, Udan. I don't know.
I know. I remember. I was
Yeah,
at that
full
time.
going. Yeah, I was in college by then. So and it was, a very, and it was a very innocently taken serial. Nothing out of the box or over the top. Very normal, natural life integrated into a middle class girl. So then I felt, oh, this is possible. They are
Hmm.
not like people dropping out of sky or something. People like us. So I
Hmm.
said, okay, it is possible. I wanted to wear that uniform. When Udan was being streamed, the army did not open gates for women officers. It was maybe a couple of years later.
Hmm.
Then I said, okay. When the gates were open, I applied, and luckily I got through. And when I entered the armed forces, because I'm from the first few batches of the armed forces, I'm from the fourth batch of women. It was, even the organization was going through a shift,
Hmm.
integrating women into the fold. And we were also trying, for us it was like another another career.
Hmm.
So we just were there, we wanted to prove ourselves, we wanted to prove our mettle. We were 10 girls among, maybe in Naval Academy, I think we were about close to 400 cadets who passed out in that particular batch, and we were 10 girls. And it was amazing to see all the 10 year, all the girls. Of course, that's how Navy would have picked up, each of us possessing different strength, and shoulder to shoulder with the guys, with the boys, going through that training. It's not easy. Even today, when
Yeah.
I look back and I say, oh my god, yes, we did all that. So yeah.
So you feel like that? How did I do it? Like when you look back at your
Oh,
younger self?
yeah, it's not easy, or it is not. But when we were going through it, like, you just leave your mind behind. You
Hmm.
don't let your mind interfere. You just go through what you put through. So it's like a normal, because that's the environment, right? That's the beauty of armed forces. The environment is such that you feel that is the norm. That is what you have to do.
Hmm.
That's the flow. So, but if I mean, if I had a daughter and if I had to send her to the academy, I would say, oh my god, will she be able to take all that? So, but it's beautiful here. Armed forces is, they never made us feel that we are a different breed, we cannot gel through. They just put us through, and we were going through. So it was, that's how it was.
It's amazing to hear your story. And what I take from from this conversation is that, usually we have an idealistic view of achievers, like, extraordinary people, extraordinary courage. So you have broken that myth for us today, that, you don't need to be someone extraordinary. You just need courage to go with what you
Absolutely.
think you want to do, because
Very, very true. Each of us have that courage. Each of us have, like, our fingerprint. Each of us are unique. We have different strengths. Like Sachin Tendulkar found his calling. He has served his purpose of coming to the earth.
hmm,
Like, each of us have a purpose. It's just that probably we are yet to unlock it. Once you unlock it, everyone, each of us have that unique, different strength that we are born with. It's just that we are masking it ourselves. I wouldn't say the circumstances. If you decide to unmask it, the circumstances will allow you. If you want to do something, if you really want to do achieve something, the entire universe conspires to
absolutely.
achieve that for you.
And I think it's true as well that universe rewards your energy. The
Yes.
the thing, the energy that you're currently showing is what the universe will give you. And if you want to play small, the universe will let
The
you play
universe
small.
will shrink
You,
to that.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. And if you want to play big, you want to bring that bigger person out, kind of work towards your highest vision, then
True.
universe will reward that energy. So
Absolutely.
I think I'm learning so much today from this conversation, and I'm sure our listeners are also going to benefit hugely from this. That
Thank you.
even if we have spent our lives playing small, you can just snap out of it and you can start now. I mean, it's never too
Absolutely.
late to start any journey, anytime.
Absolutely.
You have written two books. We spoke about your first one. Is it also in the wellness space? What is your second book about?
It is in wellness space, and it interweaves another passion of my life. I'm a half marathon runner, so my second book
Interesting.
is about yoga for runners.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Basically, when we run as runners, we feel yoga is all about stretches. We do a little bit of stretches and we say, okay, we have done yoga, or we say, okay, 3 days we have run and 2 days we have done yoga. But yoga is a very integral part of your runs,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and in fact, yoga is integral part of anything you do. You are a boxer, yoga will make you a better boxer. If you're a gymnast, yoga will make you a better gymnast. If you're swimming, yoga will make you a better swimmer. You are not doing anything normal, you're leading a normal life, yoga will enrich that life of yours. That's what yoga is about. So yoga for runners, specifically, targeted runners and people who are very active outdoors. So I have given pre-run routines, during the run what you do, after run what you do, what to eat as you prepare for the runs, or if you're thinking of running a marathon or simple 2 kilometers or 5 kilometers, what to do, what to eat, how to prepare, and during the run what to carry, post run what to do, right from diet. I included diet, ayurveda, naturopathy, counseling, so that how you prepare yourself. So that's what I have put in this particular book. And also each of us have a particular muscle group that is little more sensitive than others. In case of runners, it becomes prominent because you're actually pushing your body. My legs need little more attention, or my shoulders need little more attention, or my head keeps throbbing. You have a particular muscle group that deserves, or that craves for more attention. So each of this, firstly, staying injury free. If injury happens, how to relieving is important.
Mm.
It's like a little kid throwing tantrum, you don't go to discipline him or her right at that point, right?
Mm.
You first settle the kid and then say this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, then
Mm.
it enters their system. So that's what. So staying injury free, if injury happens, how to relieve, and then how to strengthen that particular muscle group. So for each of these, I have given different set of asanas along with breath work and meditative techniques. Another very crucial part of running, mindset is that we just want to run. Leg is broken, we want to run. We are on wheelchair, we want to run, because that gives a kind of dopamine, right? So it's like drug, you just have to be on the track all the time. So yoga for runners addresses that. If your body deserves, if your body is craving for attention and asking for a pause, you should be able to give that pause, like hold back to go farther, to run more efficiently. So it's all about addressing your mind, your body, your emotions, putting everything together just to make your runs more efficient, so that you can run farther, longer, and you are on track continuously. There is no stoppage, nothing will stop you. That's what this book is about.
Amazing. So my two takeaways from what we just spoke is that are not only giving us, giving the runners um, the do's and don'ts in their regular running journey, but what you're also teaching us through the book is that rest is repair.
Yeah,
If your body is asking for rest, then allow it that time, and don't just look at the dopamine, and don't make anything addictive, that
correct.
your daily life depends on the dopamine that comes from it. If we rest and give that body enough time to repair and rejuvenate, then it again makes your journey so much more elevated in the long run, right? While I'm personally not a runner yet, I do walk, and I truly hope that someday I will be able to run a marathon.
Oh, you will. Trust me, it is not difficult at all. So that is another part of this book. This book is not just for people who are running. So also, if you think of running, you can just pick up this book and it will actually put you on track. So it is whether you're running 2 kilometers, 20 kilometers, or 200 kilometers. This book encompasses everything. So I was a runner. I put that heart and soul into the book, and I wanted people to feel that impact of running. So if somebody is not really a runner, what is it that gets you to the track? Because
Wow.
there is something that's very beautiful about running. So I
Hmm.
want everybody to experience it. You don't have to run 20 kilometers for that. Even if you run 2 kilometers, you will get that. So that's what this book is about.
Yeah, so I have never run in my entire life, for two reasons. I have been a dancer, so dance has been a natural movement for me. But again, like you mentioned while we were speaking, when you went to Navy, the yoga part got left out for some time.
Yes,
The same thing happened with me in my life's journey. Somewhere, some of the things that you pick up in your childhood just get lost. So
true.
maybe it's a good time to pick that up. And I have seen the high that comes from dancing because it's cardio, and
Oh, yeah.
it's not just, it's a different form of thing. I would love to run someday. That's been there on my mind. And if that happens, I think it's another thing on my bucket list which will get ticked off, because I have never visualized myself running ever. So if your
Yeah,
book is doing that for me, I would really want to try that. One
yeah,
of the things that stops me is the fear of trying something new. It's just the mindset that as a block.
yeah.
What if I fail, or what if I'm not able to do it?
True.
The what if is so much more bigger than
That's for
actually.
most of us, Nisha, most of us, especially when we are success oriented and we are
Yeah. Mm,
ambition driven,
mm,
certain things hold us back for the fear of failure. So we should, in that, under those circumstances, we should just do things for the feel of it, not looking at outcome. You can just go outdoors and run those 300 meters and see how body takes it, what mind. It's nothing to do with timing. Don't time yourself. You just enjoy the process. That's where you start.
amazing. And thank you for that tip. I'm going to take that, small plunge maybe tomorrow and see how that feels, just to
Lovely.
elevate that
if, if this
space
book
from.
can do it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, while I'm walking every day, maybe just spend the last 5 minutes just
Yes.
doing a small sprint
Small.
and
Yes.
see
Yes.
how it feels, and if that changes, my life and somebody else's life, why not?
True, true. And also, I gave one complete chapter I dedicated to decoding Patanjali Yoga Sutra. People think Patanjali Yoga Sutra is something very spiritual, something very philosophical. It is a very, very practical, Sage Patanjali has put a very practical guide for the entire humanity to follow, you know.
Mm,
So
mm.
I have decoded it and brought it to our lives, what it means. He has prescribed 8-step process. So what each of these steps mean in contemporary life, in our lives, that's what I have given one entire chapter on Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Yeah. So I made it, I mean, my attempt or my endeavor was to make it very simple, very relevant to the kind of lives we are living currently.
So this book is also available on Amazon.
It's
Like if
also
anybody
available on
wants to pick a
Amazon.
copy,
Oh,
yeah.
yes. And because of this book, we as Arogyeshwarya, that is the firm that I run, a wellness firm. We were wellness partners for Indian Navy half marathon that happened in December 2025. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and this book was also brought by DLC Run in Dubai. They imported this book for DLC Run, and it had become a part of organizing committee. So for running groups, this book is serving its purpose so far. Yeah.
So, Madhvi, you manage so many different roles, as an author, as a runner, as a wellness, you also have a wellness firm. So, how do you manage your day, time, energy? So, give us a little more insight into what goes into your day. What does your regular day look like?
Yeah, so it's like, I think, any normal regular day. I get up in the morning and I start my day about 45 minutes to 1 hour of yoga, and then I just ease into my day. I go through my LinkedIn, and I'm not really a social media fan. My Instagram is managed by someone else, so that's how my day starts. And then my author cap comes on. I write something, or I read something, or I edit something. So that's what goes in, and then I curate certain programs for Arogyeshwarya wellness programs, like Women's Day coming up. I'm curating something for a couple of corporates. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what goes in next. As Authors Association, we have taken up, our mission is to take books, physical books, to people. That is another thing that has come into my bucket list. So approaching different universities or colleges or societies, simply to take books to them, because I feel books are they're very therapeutic, because turning pages is like you are one with the nature, right? Getting
Mm-hmm.
connected with nature. Whereas even if you read it on Kindle, like I have my own Kindle, I have my Audible and all that, they do serve their purpose. I'm not denying that, but holding the book and flipping through even couple of pages, that's very that actually strengthens our connect, our bonding with the world around us. So we do take it's our mission to take these books to different colleges, universities, housing societies, so that they can interact directly with the author and they can see the books, they can have the dialogue, and we also get an opportunity to have one-on-one conversation with the readers. So it's very very enriching. So that's what I'm doing. And something that feeds your soul, I do teach a bit of Bhagavad Gita online, a bit of and I read my own Vishnu Sahasranama. I'm sure each of us have our own, whatever really appeals to us,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with religion, but it's about spirituality. How do you feel energized? So you pick up something that will energize you, whether you're reading, whether you're doing your namaz, or you're going to your church, or whatever, gurudwara, or whatever energizes you. Don't do it because somebody told you to do, and that is the norm in our house, and that's what I have to do. Don't do it as an
As a
activity,
ritual. Yeah. Yeah.
as a
Mhm.
ritual. Perfect. Do it as a part of energizing your system. Like you feel hungry, you eat, right? And then you feel satiated. That's what whatever you're doing to feed your soul should feel like.
Yeah. So I think that is where a lot of folks fail to understand the relevance of Bhagavad Gita or even the Upanishads. I mean, Upanishads are very complicated for a lot of us to understand, but Bhagavad Gita is still, accessible, for modern people, and a lot of people have made it, they are writing about it, they're speaking about it. And like you rightly mentioned, these are things that should be taught early in life than later, because there is so much of wisdom that comes with just understanding Gita. I myself had not embarked on this journey for like 40 years until I hit the 4 decades of my life. I had not really tried any of this, but when I first stood on the TEDx stage, giving my talk, is when I experienced some sort of a spiritual shift within me. Because when you stand there and you're doing something, you have an onus not just for your words, but the impact that it will have on somebody else's life. And that opened up something in me, saying that, am I good enough to do this? As a speaker, as an author. And that's when I started understanding. It went back to Gita, and to understand, what is it? Who am I? The whole existential questions are answered in Gita. And, like most people, I made the mistake of assuming that it is just a religious text. It is a lot more than that, and it is.
Like I keep telling people, when Bhagavad Gita was given to the world was one. We were one humanity.
Yes.
There were no sections, there were no different religions. It was given thousands of years ago. It was given for the human race. So there are a lot of lessons, and you can actually take what is relevant to you.
Relevant for you. Yes.
It
And
has
and
nothing.
it is so beautifully put, Madhvi. Sorry, I don't know. I get so ecstatic when I talk about Gita. Like, I feel like every school, everybody should be teaching it in some, at
Yes.
that age appropriate manner, because um it addresses those two simple questions: who am I and what is my purpose in life? And if these are addressed for you early on, isn't
Yeah.
that such a beautiful thing
I
for
know. But
humanity?
we become very beautiful race, yeah, the human race. Right now, if you look at what is stopping us, there are way too many divisions, and then we are stuck in our own little,
Silo, like
the
in our
silo,
cocoon.
and then we are saying, okay, this is right, this is how it is supposed to be. That is one of the ways you can go. There
Hmm.
are also other ways. It's just, don't get stuck to something, a particular way. Just look at the wider picture, the big
Wholeness. Hmm.
picture, where you want to head.
Yeah, and that is what even I kind of drew from that, because it is not about becoming something or becoming someone. It is about understanding the whole context of living, the miracle of human life that we have, and what we can make out of it if we start shedding those unnecessary layers of everything that we have masked ourselves with. It
True.
is a beautiful, beautiful document, and I hope that more people get to read it, hear it,
I
access it
hope
in some form or manner.
Yeah.
And I think the government of India has also taken a good step in terms of starting Gita early on. So I think that's a very welcome move for the generations to come.
True.
So religion needs to be separated from spirituality, like you rightly
Exactly.
said.
Absolutely.
Uh, and the amount of clarity, the amount of peace that can come from there, I
Yeah.
think sometimes I feel happiness is overrated. Peace is the thing
Peace,
that,
peace and joy, that is
yeah.
the ultimate, yeah.
This is such a enriching conversation that we've had on a Women's Day special episode at the Inside Edge podcast. You have given us so many important things to think about, be it career, be it life, in terms of how we should look at wellness, integrating body and mind in our everyday practices. Two beautiful books uh, you have written and gifted the world. I'm so happy to be even sitting here, and I'm nobody to be doing this, sitting here and talking to someone like you. Absolutely a
You are
privilege to.
you are creating this universe, taking certain things to the entire world. It is very beautiful. It's really very beautiful and very heartening what you're doing. And I wish you all the success. May you take it to a different level, and may you impact the entire humanity
Because
through.
I feel stories like these need to reach people. Otherwise, they get lost in the glitter and glamour of social media. There's so much noise in social media, and true stories like these get lost. I think the whole consumerism and the whole booming business and the whole side of it has somewhere taken away the charm of real stories that
Yeah.
do exist in India, made from India. If I can, in some way, as an author, as a storyteller, bring out those stories, I think my job is done.
You're doing a brilliant job at it.
Thank you so much. So, before we wrap up, what is your one advice for the modern woman?
I mean, each of us are living our lives. Yeah, like, let me get it back to the theme of Women's Day. This year, give to gain. The entire womanhood. We feel that we have to give somewhere, even if nobody tells us. We feel it's our moral responsibility to just give. But there is something like that. Give to gain. I really like that phrase, because and gaining is not necessarily in the form of materialism. Gaining, like you beautifully brought out, Nisha, gaining is in the form of peace, in the form of joy. That's what we should aim for. So whatever you give, you see what is it that it is giving you in return. Whether you are giving, like a very basic example, like if somebody asks you for some $100, and if you know that that person is going to buy a pack of cigarettes, you will give that 100 rupees, but with a very disturbed energy, right? Like, or he or she will make a wreck out of his life. You're thinking all that and you're giving. Then that kind of giving is no good. No good for you and no good for the other person. So when you're giving something, you see what is it that you're gaining. Maybe even if the reason is the same, then maybe you can say that, okay, I'm giving it right now. You can go, you can smoke, but then think of the repercussions. At least you will be at peace. What is it that the what you're giving is doing to you. So at the end of it, it is you having your own remote control with yourself. You're not leaving the remote with anyone else. So
Someone.
whatever you are giving, whether it is money, whether it is support, whether it is any kind of your words, your deeds, give it with the purpose of impacting others' lives, and give it and be conscious of what you're gaining against it. That will really settle your energy. So that's what I would like all the women, in fact everybody, to be conscious of. And I think once we are conscious of that, once we are conscious of our own energy, I think we'll make this world a very beautiful place.
Amazing. What a brilliant piece of advice. Be mindful even while you're giving something. I think I have not heard something like this in a long time. So thank you so much for that. We end up giving so much of ourselves without even realizing why we are doing what we are doing. Maybe it's just that small reflective pause that is needed today on Women's Day to, and every day. I mean, it doesn't have to be on a specific day, but every day you just take those little bit of time for yourself to understand, where am I headed, what am I doing, why am I doing what am I doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nisha. It was beautiful, talking to you, exchanging, thoughts, and very nice and wonderful work you're doing. Keep at it and keep inspiring.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And to all our listeners today, if you have learned anything, any one key takeaway or lesson that you're going to take back into your life, please drop that in the comment so others can also learn from your learning. And we hope to see that you have improved your own life, your energy, your vibration by harnessing the power of yoga and everything that our culture truly represents and stands for. Have a great life ahead. And it's from Madhavi and me. We thank you for sparing your time with us and wish you luck and good health every day in your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, joyful life.